The next section I want to talk about is called voltage processors. And I have to say, this is another one that totally baffled me. I was like, what? Because, various functions make a lot of sense because you know what the function is meant to do, the purpose of the function overall. Whereas voltage processors are just a means of interacting with and changing voltages in the voltage control. So it's a little more, I don't know what the word is, but anyhow, the voltage processor section is super helpful. First of all, you'll notice that over here on the inputs, there are various little legends above them, and that tells you what is pre-wired there to begin with. Like the first jack here is negative 10 volts. Then we have keyboard CV. Then we have positive 10 volts, and then the envelope follower is apparently hardwired to the lag generator. Okay, but first let's just go to this first section. These 2 jacks, 2 sliders, and then 3 outputs. They're all sort of related. They're all connected. First, if you just wanted to take the out and plug it into something, you actually can control the amount of stuff with the 10 volts that's coming in there. In this case, we are using the volts. This is just outputting. There's 10 volts coming in there, and we're directing those 10 volts and adjusting how many volts there are as a result of this slider to get a different outcome. So you could turn it all the way down. And so right there, I'm just using this slider, and I'm basically the envelope or the LFO or whatever. And you can do that if you want to have, if you want your filter to be at a certain point, but you want to be able to mess with it in the midst of performance, but you still want it to stay at that certain point for most of the time, this is a good way to do that. So if you really wanted it to be right there, but you want to do this without messing up that setting, this is the way you would do it. And it's really convenient. But primarily what you're doing is all of these inputs, all 4 of these inputs, 2 of them have sliders, so you can adjust the amount of what you're inputting if you're not dealing with what is hardwired in there. But so you can plug things in here, voltage sources, adjust them to how you would like them to be. And then you have 2 more jacks that you could plug things into that you don't get to adjust the amount of. And then they all end up at an inverter, which is to say those voltages are inverted. And so if you plugged an envelope in there, you're going to get the opposite of that envelope. Let's demonstrate. Here, I'll put the ADSR in here, and then we'll take it out and control the filter with it. We get nothing. And then you control the amount with that slider. So really the voltage processors, the most immediate things that they do is control the amount of the voltage coming in and then invert those voltages on the output. That is what these first 2 sliders are set up to do. So you could have 2 different voltage sources going into, let's just even do it, shall we? Let's take the sawtooth out of oscillator 1, put that in here. Since all of these inputs, these 4 inputs, and these 2 sliders go to this single output, we will hear this. So it's also a means of making more complex voltage variations that you can then invert. at the output. So that's basically, and there's probably about a million more things that could actually be doing. You could adjust the range of LFO and etc. So it's really useful. And then we have another one down here. So if you want to do that someplace else with a different output, you can. So the second setting has two inputs, one with a slider and one without. One you can adjust, one you can't. And then they invert and come out of there. I'm not sure why they didn't just like have a CV mixer. I guess because you could use the mixer over here as a CV mixer. I'm not sure. Anyway, so you have two opportunities to get voltage control manipulations, inverted and output. Now the final one is the fun one because it is a slew generator or lag processor or whatever. Basically what it does is it slows changes in voltage. This is very, very cool because, for example, that's how we get portamento. If we take keyboard CV coming from the keyboard, we put that into the lag and we take it out of the lag and put it into the input, the keyboard CV input of, say, oscillator 3, which we're listening to, we will hear this. Well, we won't hear that. That's what we're starting with. Tell me if you recognize this effect. The lag is diminishing it's slowing the changes between voltages. And when you're playing a keyboard, different notes on the keyboard are different voltages. So you are slowing the change between those voltages and you're getting this glissando, some would say, but most of us say portamento. So theoretically, if you wanted to, there is no portamento on the ARP 2600 except for that is provided by the traditional keyboard, not provided by the micro key, which is included with the limited system. But if you wanted to have portamento on at least two notes, you could go into take the output, put it into the multiple over here, and then direct it over to two different keyboard CV inputs. And there you go. Or if you wanted to be really obnoxious, you could take one of these and then put it into the voltage processors. And I wonder what would happen if you inverted it. Well, I mean, actually, I think I know. Let's see if what happens. Yeah, we don't want to do that. Okay. Anyway, let's forget I did that, shall we? Where did that output go? Oh, here. Anyway, that's the way to get... that's the way to get portamento on multiple notes. But the lag processor is really cool because in addition to that, like say you had a sample and hold, but instead of the rigid sample and hold that we're used to, the computery kind, you could generate a lag sample and hold, which is really just it's not quantized, it's more variable. So you could get something like this. Instead of this. So it takes, by slowing changes, it actually diminishes high frequency content, which is kind of what we're seeing there. And So keep in mind, you could also do something like this. Let's take something out of the noise generator. We'll take some white noise out of the noise generator, and we'll put that into an audio input. We'll put it in the noise generator input. That'll show it. Okay. So there's your white noise. Now listen what happens when we use the lag on the white noise. It sounds like it's controlling the volume, but what it's really doing is slowing changes in voltage, which is to say it's taking out all the high frequencies. You have a very basic low-pass filter going on here. So if you have some sound that is too bright and you wish it wasn't, you can't put it through the filter because you're doing something else with the filter, you can bring it down here to the lag and you can take some of the high frequencies out of it. So those are some very basic explorations of the voltage processors found on the Korg ARP 2600M.